This is the first time that a presidential campaign, has had this position. And I want to talk briefly about the organizational structure that brought it about, because this is actually very important. New media we defined on the Obama campaign as everything to do with the internet which wasn't technical. Right? So my team was responsible for the design and branding, the video, online advertising, email, social media, organizing on our website, organizing off of our website on places like Myspace and Facebook, and all of the analytics that go into these things, without having to worry about the technology piece of it. And so separately in the campaign there was a CTO who was in charge of figuring out the technology platforms for us to use, the data integration, and all of these sort of things. Previously, just to give you a sense of how things went in 2004, on John Kerry's campaign, the person who was responsible for doing the online engagement and fundraising was also responsible for making sure that people had Microsoft Word on their computer and that their BlackBerries worked. And so you can understand that maybe the skill set is somewhat different. And so I come from, I'm not a technical person, and I come from a background as a writer and organizer. So we built this team thanks to the leadership from my boss, who was the campaign manager, David Plouffe, who oriented new media in the digital space as an equal seat at the table to the traditional departments of a campaign, so equal to communications and the field organizing and the fundraising. And our job was to bring these pieces together in ways that would make the outcome and the end result of the digital campaign greater than what any one of those parts would want to do, or some sort of compromise between them. So that's enough about me. We want to talk about all of these people. This is what 100,000 people look like, and this is in St. Louis, down the stretch in the general election. Now, what's interesting about this picture isn't actually the picture, it's what happened the day before this picture and what happened the day after this picture. The day before this picture, 85% of those people gave us their email address and said that they were coming to this event. And so at the gates, they were able to say, here's my ticket that I got online, and we had all of their information was printed on it. The rest of the folks who came but who hadn't signed up, they were put into a separate line and we collected their information when they came in. So literally everyone you see gave us their email address. And what happened the day after this is that we continued to build a relationship. We put all those people to work as volunteers, as connectors in their community, using our digital presence to leverage the impact of this offline event. And so I want to talk about the principles that we went into that and how we applied them. But first I want to show a video that I think captures the ethos of what we were talking about.
Maybe we can do it this way.
Maybe this is better. Okay, so first I want to show this video. It's a collaboration we put together with our supporters that we showed around the country at the convention and around through the final home stretch. So here it is.
This election isn't going to be about changing parties. It's going to be about living for every other American. That's what gives me hope.
I don't want a nation just for me. I want a nation for everybody.
Feel hope and not feel that glimmer of light again.
I don't think I was ever this interested in the voting process.
It's the first time I've ever felt compelled to be part of a movement such as this.
I want to get them back involved in this process. The grassroots level first, and then let it go. That's going to make me happy.
Ourselves. The campaign helps us, they're there to help us, but we're organizing ourselves.
It is the relationships that we have with one another that is our strength.
I think for a long time I had given up that we could work together to make change in this country.
So I've
been involved in politics. I've seen politicians, but this is different.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is no ordinary time. This is no ordinary election. And this may be our last chance to reclaim the America we love.
We are one people. We are one nation. And together we will begin the next great chapter in the American story with words that will ring from coast to coast, from sea to shining sea. Yes, we can.
Alright, so I've watched that video probably a couple hundred times now, but every time I see it, it sort of makes me lose it a little bit. It makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up, because that, for me, captures the essence of what we're doing on the campaign. And what's important about that video is that, and that video, like virtually all of our content that we created in the digital space, you actually don't see Barack Obama. He talks for 16 seconds at the end, but that's actually, it's not him that it's about. It's about the relationships between our supporters and showing the sense of the movement back to each other. Now, there's an emotional impact, and a lot of the content we created was designed to elicit that and get people inspired, but inspiration only goes so far, and the concrete outcomes of that inspiration are what we're ultimately measured by. So ultimately, that's an election, but...
The room is not ideally suited, but we will leave the windows open for light and just turn this off.
All right, he's the boss. So the concrete outcomes. Obviously, election day is the, there are two possible results, and we checked that box, we got that one. But the social media and digital campaign had our own metrics over the course of the campaign that would determine our success. 13 million people signed up for our email list. We were in contact with and organizing 13 million people. That's about 1 out of every 6 people who voted for us. Those 13 million people organized 45,000 different grassroots volunteer groups. Using the tools we provided on our website for them as a sort of public utility, they organized themselves into groups according to mostly geography, but also their constituency groups, so Women for Obama, Veterans for Obama, and also their issue groups and discussions for the things that they cared about. And these groups were the core of our field organizing program, both in places where we had staff who could work with them and do the field organizing, but also in places where we didn't have staff. These were especially important. They made millions of phone calls and knocked on millions of doors, and I mean that in two ways, both in the traditional sense of knocking on doors and making phone calls by working with a field staff in a location where we have them, so going into the office and physically making phone calls. A big innovation this time, though, was that we enabled people to do these things from home in a more distributed way. So if you wanted to, you could organize a group of folks, your friends or neighbors, to go knock on doors in your community or make phone calls at a party from your home without us having to organize it at all. The system was tied into the same system that our staff used, and so all of the data came back to us. 200,000 offline events were planned. So the events I was just describing, there were over 200,000, 95% of which we had no staff presence at or really any information about. But all, again, because people were using the public utility sort of tools on our website, we're able to see all of this happening and take the information of folks who, if you were hosting an event, we knew that you had hosted an event. And so all of this happened and was part of our total relationship with our supporters. Videos like the one you saw, these people who were doing this organizing were incredibly hungry consumers of content. And so over the course of the campaign, we produced 2,000 videos that we put up into our YouTube account. And if you add up all of the time that was spent watching just our videos, not all of the Obama-related election videos on YouTube, but just our videos that the campaign created, our campaign message, it adds up to 1.2 billion minutes of time that people spent watching. And of course, we raised $500 million from these people. What's interesting about it is that it was 3 million people gave online. They gave a little over $500 million. But those 3 million people made 6.5 million contributions. So it speaks to the depth of the relationship that our average donor gave more than twice.